Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Namita. Today we are talking about homesickness. Now, I used to be the queen of homesickness when I was a grad student. So if you clicked on this video for tips that will help you effectively handle homesickness, I got you. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and let's get started. To give you some context, the first time I ever moved away from home was when I decided to pursue my master's in Texas A&M. So when I took my flight from Bangalore, India to Houston, Texas, I was venturing out on my own without having the possibility of living with my parents. Now, as a kid, I only just went to my grandparents or my aunt's places, which were again really close to my own hometown. I've never stayed in hostels or dorms or even any other kind of living arrangement until I started my master's journey here. So I still remember the first time I landed in Houston. I'd taken a late evening flight from London, and when I reached my apartment in College Station, Texas around, I guess it was 1:30 a.m. In the night, I cried like a baby the night I reached because everything was so weird, everything was so out of place. I was feeling like I don't belong there. The cultural shock, everything was a huge shock. Honestly, that's when my homesickness saga began, and I realized over the course of time that I could have made a better what do I say? I think I could have well prepared. I could have just spent some time expecting to be homesick, because when I did start out on my journey, I told myself that it was impossible for me to be homesick because I've always been so independent, that homesickness was for people who are really attached to their parents. I guess I am attached to my parents. I guess I just expected to be so involved and so focused on my masters, on my career, that I would not be homesick. Now, if only I had really understood the idea of homesickness and just had spent some time being aware of my feelings, of being able to label the rush of sadness, the rush of this new anxiety of a new place, I think I could have dealt with homesickness better. So, the first pointer that I think will help anybody who is currently homesick is to understand that all the new emotions that you're feeling, the extreme longing for home, the extreme longing for your parents, for your friends, whoever you left behind in your hometown, your home country, that it is homesickness. It happens to so many people. It can happen to anyone. Doesn't matter if you moved to get a new degree or to start a new job or whatever the reason. It does not matter if you move to a new city, a new country, wherever you are, just away from your regular lifestyle. It's okay, it happens to everybody. So just being aware of the fact that you are indeed experiencing homesickness makes it really easy, because once you label all this confusion, you just have to learn how to deal with it, so you're not stumped every time out of nowhere random things trigger your homesickness. The next big mistake I made was to constantly talk about homesickness. Now, I'm really close to my mom. Like, my mom is one of my best friends. I talk to her. Even now I talk to her at least for an hour every night. We're constantly gossiping, talking about new things, old things, food recipes. There's 100 things. So what happened when I moved from India to United States was, it was a very big change to my mom as well, because I've never stayed away from her. So we were sort of mutually missing each other a lot. So every time I called her, which used to be pretty much every day, and I would spend hours together telling her that I miss home and that I miss everything, and I think this has been a huge mistake. My mom used to agree with me. She did not mean to make me more homesick, or she was not trying to make me feel bad for my life decisions. It was just that she was also missing me. She was also in this whole homesickness for me. So I fell into this vicious cycle where I would tell her what went wrong and sort of connect it to the reason that because I moved, these things are happening in my life. If only I had stayed, I would not have to gone through with problems, maybe roommate issues, maybe career trajectory, whatever it is, right? I mean trajectory. Um, so I'm just having flashback, guys. I'm having flashback to the time I was so homesick that I was barely functioning. So yes, what I'm trying to tell you is this: if you want to talk about homesickness, talk to somebody who can tell you how to deal with it, instead of somebody who is going to be homesick for you as much as you are for them. Because at the point where you are becoming really homesick, you need a new perspective, you need a distraction, and you need to focus on what matters. So the moment you find somebody to talk to who is able to tell you what to do without sympathizing with you too much, you will find your cure for homesickness. Because for me, it was a friend of mine. One day he asked me, okay, tell me something, how long do you plan on being homesick? When he asked me that, I was honestly offended. I was like, how rude, how can you say that? But then he sat me down and he told me this. He's like, listen to me, your master's degree is for 2 years, so you are going to be here for 2 years whether you like it or not, unless you plan to drop out, which I don't think is an option. And after you get your master's degree, you have an option to go back home, or if you do plan on working here, then you're looking for another 3 to 5 years of being away again. So unless you make up your mind now that you are in a new place and you are going to have to deal with this, you're just going to be homesick and miserable forever. Now that's the kind of tough love I wish I had got right when I got homesick, because that would have saved me a lot of heartache. For 8 months I was homesick, for almost 8 to 10 months. So remember that you signed up for this for a reason. You thought through this, you arrived at this decision to make a move after considering all the logical and technical and practical aspects of things. So don't worry about missing home so much that you develop a FOMO, because I realized I would really miss Bangalore, my hometown. Anytime I even saw random BuzzFeed articles on my newsfeed on Facebook, somebody posted something about the top 20 things that's amazing about Bangalore, and I would be like, oh my god, I miss home. So try and, if you were to ask me, just avoid talking about homesickness, because other than getting a little bit of sympathy from people who care about you, and maybe some friends who care enough that they sit and chat with you and maybe cook for you to make you feel better, homesickness is not going to make anything easy for you. So try and constantly do not talk about it. If you keep the last 2 pointers in mind, that will initially help you not to be super homesick, so you don't fall homesick at all. And then the second thing will be, even if homesick hits you, you tend to be very conscious of it. So then you know the other tips that I'm going to talk about now will make it so much easier to sort of understand the situation you are in and to sort of assimilate yourself into the new place. So the first thing that I have usually seen students do, or even many people who move to a new place do, is to stick a ton of photos and memories from their hometown, from their old life in the new place. Now if I was still doing that, you would see photos probably behind me, above my bed, or across me on the wall, because these photos are meant to be a familiar spot for you when you move to a new place, more like a cozy spot where you can sit down and feel like you belong. But what happens when you are being extremely homesick is these photos, they act like triggers to remind you of the good times you had when those photos were clicked. Now, excuse my speech again, like I told in one of my videos, I have my Invisalign teeth aligners in my mouth, and they sometimes make my speech slurry and certain pronunciations sound like I'm sort of not saying them right, so apologies. So like I was saying, do not hang photos that make you miss home so much that you are unable to sort of function in the new place. So what I did was I replaced all the photos that I had from back home with what inspired me. I replaced them with inspirational quotes. I replaced them with photos of New York City, because for me, one of the biggest dreams for me was to visit New York. I love the city so dearly. So what I did was I put up photos of Times Square, of Empire State Building, of Brooklyn Bridge, and things that made me happy, and that sort of helped me to stay focused, because when I was still in Texas, having photos of New York around me motivated me to work towards having a life in and around New York. So try that. If you have memory triggers, so much so that it's not helping you feel good on a bad day but making things worse, get rid of them. Getting rid of photos and getting rid of the old items of your life does not mean that your past life, not your past life, your old life is over or you're disconnected. It just means that you are throwing all that energy into having a more focused future. So try that, definitely try that. The next thing that super helped me was to go out and meet new people. Now, I'm not talking about your dating life, I'm talking about making new friends. So one thing that really helped me was joining student organizations. Also, because when you're in a new place, everything is so overwhelming. Don't try to join too many organizations at once, and don't try something super new that it makes you feel like you don't belong and triggers homesickness all over again. Try to find things where you can belong without trying a lot. Now that for me was the Indian Student Association, and I still think it's one of the best decisions I ever took to go interview to be a part of the organizations. I made a ton of really great friends who continue to be amazing friends even now, and also I found a lot of mentors in my association, a lot of people who told me how to handle homesickness, how to handle my whole career trajectory and everything else. So try to find new people and new places where you can make new memories so your old memories don't haunt you so much. Now this also helps you kind of explore the new city or the new town you're in. For me, like if you're a coffee lover like I am, you can go find new coffee shops to hang out in, or you can find new maybe museums where you can spend some time. So what happens is when you start making new memories and when you start making new routines for yourself in a new place, and it kind of becomes a part of your life so much that you don't feel like you're missing a lot because you're so busy creating something new. Now, the next thing is to take a road trip. One of the very first places I visited in Texas was NASA. I think it was about 2 months after I moved. Me and a bunch of friends, about 10 of us, we took a wonderful road trip to NASA Houston, and then we also went to a beach in Galveston. We had really great food, we clicked a ton of photos. I made so many new memories that day. Even now, NASA continues to be a comfort spot for me, even if I am in New Jersey, New York, away from Texas. That is simply because one of the first happy memories for me were in NASA. So when you go on a road trip or any sort of trip, even for a single day, a really short trip in a new place, your brain now sort of triggers old memories to the back of your brain, and then you have new ones on the front, making you feel like you belong. So if you have the option, try to take a road trip, especially if you're coming to the United States. It's pretty much of a norm, really. I see usually students, as soon as they make a bunch of friends, they rent cars out and they have their driving license. Keep in mind that you have the proper driving license, of course, your international permit and everything, and go on a road trip. It will help you break the rut and also see new places. The last tip, I know it's going to sound really crazy, but move to a new place. Now, when I was in Texas and I got my internship in New York, I was going to stay here for 3 months, and I feel like in the 3 months that I was here, I kind of found myself all over again. I found my old self where I was confident, where I was sort of comfortable in a place. So what happens when you move to a new place is it poses a new challenge and breaks the rut of the old new place. So it's kind of a human nature thing where when you get out of a situation that's really challenging, it gives you a ton of self-confidence and self-esteem. So for me, when I had to survive by myself in New York for 3 months, it made everything else sort of bleak in comparison, and I told myself, hey, I can do this. So when I did go back to Texas for my 3rd semester, I was pumped, I was confident, I was excited, and honestly I think I had so much fun in the 2nd year of my masters that I kind of made up for all the missed fun in the 1st year. So you guys, I'll be honest, I know homesickness really sucks. If you did a YouTube search and you landed on this video, I can absolutely understand the place you are in right now because I was there. Now I'm able to talk about it without sort of having a really bad response to it, a bad reaction to it. But when I was going through it, it was pathetic. So I can understand, I feel you. So what I can tell you is it gets better. I did not even go back home in my winter break because I was so worried I might not want to come back. I was that homesick. I think at one point it became a part of my identity where my homesickness was the starting talking point for me about a ton of things. So I can understand. So what I will tell you is this: don't worry, you will get over it. It will be gone, and one day you will look back and wonder how you made through a time so difficult that you cannot really explain, but you just have to deal with it. So homesickness happens, homesickness goes away, it is just a phase, it will pass. So I hope all these tips help you to feel better. Just remember, you're not alone, and even though a lot of people tend to treat homesickness like a very common, very minor thing, to some people it can become major. So if you're one of those, I hope all these tips help you feel better about yourself. And if there's anything I can do for you, let me know in the comments below or send me a message on Instagram. I'm happy to help. With that said, I'm going to leave you guys for now, and I'll meet you next week with a new video. Next week we're talking about how to write a really effective SOP. It's also one of my highly requested videos, and also I love the topic because I feel like an SOP is what makes or breaks your application. So I will be back next week with that video, and meanwhile, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, click on the red subscribe button, because unless you do it, you won't know when I post another helpful video. And also when you subscribe it, you're telling YouTube that you really like this channel. So thank you very much and take care.